Well, look at us. Hello, everybody. This is exciting. It's such a fascinating thing to communicate online with everybody. Something that I never get used to. But we're streaming live to YouTube right now, and we have the ability to simultaneously look. So when you join this room, please come on in and say hi. If you have during the process of this conversation we're about to have with this guy right here, feel free to ask questions. What makes this conversation that much more rich is when it's about you. So we are super excited to be here.
Excited.
Yeah, you just showed my profile right now. So first of all, we're at my buddy's house here, and I just want to say a couple of things because what you're about to experience is unique. And I think it's probably me taking advantage of my friendship with him because I'm getting our buddy Jim Kwik here that everybody knows so well. He's going to be just giving it away today. He's going to just give away so much just amazing stuff. So just on a personal basis, what I can say about Jim, because you can find out everything you want to know about him and what he's done in the world and how many people he's helped and his heart and everything like that. But I know him as an actual human being, off the cameras. And what I can say, he's a
25 years.
25 years, yeah. He's a real person. He's a good friend. He's a dad. He's a husband. He's a son. And he's human. A lot of people don't think Jim Kwik is human, but he's actually human. And what he's done for me as a friend, obviously he's been there for me all the time, as I am for him. But when I first came across what Jim was doing, and he's been doing this for a long time, but he's just completely leveled it up to this limitless level. I was always interested in this idea of how two people could come from the same circumstances and go after the same thing and get different results. That's always been fascinating to me. And what I realized when you do some deep work there is that it's who you are, and for the sake of this conversation, how well your brain has been trained and how well it works. But it's who you are that determines how well what you do works. So what's so fascinating about my experience is Jim's taught me how to speed read to the point, my daughter as well, to the point where I consume 50 plus books a year. Which is something I never thought I would do, to the point where I'm addicted to reading. But also the memory retention of the books, that's one thing. But to gain access beyond this, what I was trained to think our brains work at a certain capacity, I've tapped into, I saw that movie with Bradley Cooper, Limitless. Like, it's almost like I took NZT 17 or whatever it was called. But I tapped into this level of, sure, I stopped forgetting things and I started remembering people's names. I've seen Jim stand at a door in front of a packed room that's walking in 300 people, and he remembers everybody's names. And I said, teach me how to do that, because I wanted to see how it would relate to myself. But Jim's coursework, and you're going to hear just nuggets from it today that you can apply right now, is going to take you and position you as a different version that will set goals, but now start getting goals. And here's why. This is why I think it's so relevant that we're doing this live here in November 2024.
We're recording, right?
We're recording, yeah. That's so funny. We're like, well, let's start over again. Here's why it's so relevant. And this is what I really want you to take home as we, get started here.
So you don't have to hit this?
No. It's up there. It's recording. See, it says live right there.
Okay.
Yeah, that's if you want to watch the recording. This is funny. You're getting real-time JC and Jim Kwik stuff here. But here's the relevance, and I really want you to take this home. Right about now is when you're starting to make your decisions. Actually, it starts in October when we start to decide what we want to see change in 2025. But at the same time, we will notice the oscillating illusion that you can't do the same thing and expect different results. You know that scenario. So Jim is going to help you change that situation to the point where you're going to be able to become the person that has a much higher chance of succeeding. So remember, who you are determines how well what you do works. Jim is going to actually teach you how to level up the who. And Jim, I want to start off by addressing a question that I know will set you forward. I heard you say so many times that, because a lot of people say, "Oh, I want to take Jim Kwik's memory recall and his speed reading." I've heard you say that people don't have bad memories,
Yeah.
because you're looking at a guy that actually was at a disadvantage with a brain injury as a child. He had to learn how to learn. He didn't know he was going to teach you guys that. But people don't have bad memories. They just have untrained brains. So maybe we could start off from there.
I appreciate it. So I met Dr. JC when I was a patient of his a couple of decades ago. And so, yeah, he's been so supportive. So I love doing things with him and being part of the community. Let's jump into it. Let's turn this into a master class. I recommend everybody takes notes. Everyone knows there's a learning curve, right? And then we have the chats open also as well. Or if you're watching the recording, I look forward to seeing your comments. But people don't realize that we could grow older, but we could grow better. Me being in my 50s, everything is measurable. And that's one thing I like about it. You can measure reading speed, reading comprehension. You could take tests on your ability to remember names or numbers or foreign languages, client information, product information, and see before and afters. And I have to say, I'm scoring above anything that I've done in my 20s, 30s, and 40s. So, I just want to put that out there. The science of neuroplasticity, you could really train your mind to do remarkable things. And so that's what Limitless is all about. It's not about being perfect. Limitless is about advancing and progressing beyond what you currently believe is possible. As JC mentioned, and if there's time with an audience, I'll do demonstrations where I'll memorize, let's say, a room of people's names, or they'll challenge me and make up 100 random words or 100-digit number, and I'll recall it forwards and backwards. But I always tell people, I don't do this to impress you. I do this to express to you what's possible, because the truth is, each and every one of you could do this too. And if automatically something in your mind said there's just no way, then that's a mindset issue, which we could talk about in this session. But just like there's a learning curve, there's a forgetting curve. When you hear something once or read it once, within 48 hours, do you know how much you forget on average? It's upwards of 80%.
Wow.
So 4 out of 5 pieces of information is just gone. And so I advise everyone to take some notes. One of my favorite ways of taking notes, some of you like digital note taking, some of you like handwriting notes.
Oh, I love this.
Handwriting notes actually scores better. And when students at universities are tested, they score better for comprehension. They score better for memory retention. And digital is great for storing information, for sharing information. But if you can handwrite the notes first before you digitize them, or some people get clever, they have those things on their tablets where they could draw on it. One of my favorite ways of taking notes, as you're watching this on video, is a whole brain note-taking technique that we teach, where you put a line right down the page. Very simple. And on the left side, you capture, and on the right side, you create. So as we're teaching accelerated learning and memory, I want us to be doing it also. I feel like we don't know it unless we could do it. Capture, create. So on the left side is very logical, just like your brain. Your right side is more visual, more imagination. And it's a oversimplification by far. But so what are you capturing on this side? Things like how to remember names and faces. What are the best foods for a better memory? How do you read faster? You're capturing. But what are you writing on the right side? Your impressions of what you're capturing. So things like, what questions do I have? How does this relate to what I already know? When am I going to use this? And so if your imagination is going to distract you, which we're all guilty of when we're on Zooms or some kind of we're there, then I'd rather it distract you on the right side of the page. So another way of saying it, on the left side, you're capturing or you're note taking. On the right side, you're creating or you're note making. Note taking, making, left and right brain. And it's a great place to start. So let's go into, why I know it's possible, just real quick. Maybe some people could relate. JC mentioned that I had a brain injury when I was 5. So I fell on a windowsill and ricocheted to a radiator. Both had, impact, and was rushed to the emergency room. I got knocked out.
How old were you?
I was only 5 years old.
Wow.
So there were all these fire trucks outside of kindergarten, and we couldn't see outside the window. So everyone grabbed their chairs, and I stood on the chair, and unfortunately I lost my balance. And, because of it, I've had a lot of challenges as a kid. I would have migraines every day. I would have balance coordination issues, poor focus, poor memory, which I'm going to teach you techniques that I've learned, improve focus and memory in this session. It took me 3.5 years just to learn how to read. And that was very embarrassing. Like the other kids could read, they would pass around that book. And for me, just think about the self-doubt, think about the lack of confidence, think about the low self-esteem. And I remember when I was 9 years old, I was slowing down a class and I was being teased because I just didn't understand the lessons, and teacher would have to repeat herself to help me. And the kids were teasing me because of it. And teacher came to my defense. She pointed to me in front of the whole class and said, "Leave that kid alone. That's the boy with the broken brain."
Oof.
And that label really became my limit, if you will, because I didn't know, like when we're born, you're a blank slate. And adults have to be very careful of their external words because they often become a child's internal words. So every single time I wasn't picked for sports, which was every week, or every single time I did badly in school, which was every day, I would always say to myself, "Oh, it's because I have the broken brain." And, at events that JC was mentioning, we had the blessing of sharing the stage together. People invariably pull me aside before, or after my presentation in the lobby and say, "Jim, I'm so glad you're here as a memory coach. I'm just too old." Or they'll say something like, "I'm not that smart. I have a horrible memory." And I always say the same thing. I put my hand up and I say, "Stop. If you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. If you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. They're yours. Your brain is this incredible supercomputer. Your self-talk, your belief system are the programs it will run. So if you tell yourself, 'I'm not good at remembering people's name,' then you're not going to remember the name of the next person you meet because you program your supercomputer not to." Does that make sense?
Let me ask you a question about that. So what does that say for things like affirmations? Some people say that's a waste of time.
Yeah.
But self-talk.
I think when you take self-talk and you add two components, so the self-talk is verbal, but when you could add a visual and you could add a kinesthetic aspect to it, meaning you're saying the affirmation, but you're visualizing it too, and you feel like grateful or you feel excited, it's a way of combining. I think the ultimate success formula is H cubed: your head, your heart, and your hands. Right? Your head, your heart, your hands. When things align, everything just changes. And so, one of the most important parts of her memory, or I think the process of manifestation, is part of your middle brain. So you have a triune brain. All right. And I know we're going to go into tactics. If you make a fist like this, you see, like this.
All right.
So, and, I know you know a lot about human anatomy and the nervous system. Your wrist would be your reptilian brain. All right, your reptilian brain. And this is certain functions that keep you alive. It makes your heart beat, right? It maintains your core body temperature. It maintains your breathing, right? Your reptilian, very, very primal. Your fist is the middle brain. All right, so that's your middle brain. And then if you put your other hand on top of it like a cap, that's your neocortex. So when we hear about your left and right brain, that's the top hat. Left and right brain, and splitting it is something called your corpus callosum, which is a network of fibers that facilitates communication between your left and right brain. All right. So, and it's much more sophisticated than this. Obviously, your brain is the most valuable wealth building asset we have. It's the most complex, but it doesn't come with an owner's manual. It's not user friendly. And that's why we wrote Limitless. That's why we have our podcast to educate people on how to use your brain. Because once you know how to use your brain, everything changes. And I want people to really know their brain. I want people to trust their brain. I want people to love their brain. And most of all, I want people to use their brain. You'll notice I'm wearing a brain on my shirt. I'm always pointing to my brain in photographs because I feel like what you see, you take care of. You see your car, your skin, your hair, your, your furniture, whatever, your clothes, because you know when it's deteriorating, but we don't see the thing that takes care of us. So I always want to bring attention to your brain, which for all of you, it's your number one, treasure, because it controls everything. And part of my message to all of you today is you don't have to be the passenger of your brain. You could be the pilot of that brain.
I love that idea. Let me ask you a question. You were kind of pushed into this, with what happened at the time to you, but it ended up for you.
Mm-hmm.
What does that say, without you throwing this education system under the bus, but what does that say about an education system where we're going through it and not finding out until we meet Jim Kwik that nobody's taught us how to learn?
And I always thought it was interesting, and please put in the chat if you feel the same way, that school teaches you what to learn: math, history, science.
Which makes you just take it for what they say.
Right. Yeah, especially if you don't have taught critical thinking skills and analytical skills. But school teaches you what to learn, but there are no classes on how to learn.
Yeah.
And part of our message here for all of you is it's not how smart you are, it's actually how are you smart. It's not how smart you are, it's how are you smart. It's not how smart your spouse is or your kids are, your coworkers are, it's how are they smart. And we all have different ways of expressing and developing our own genius. And, so like even when you think about standardized tests we took here in this United States, it's like half of it is verbal, the other half is math, right? And that's, the proxy for helping you get into universities and everything else. But there's so many other forms of intelligence. There's visual spatial intelligence. People are just really great artists, and these are future architects, graphic designers, painters. But there's also kinesthetic intelligence. People are just amazing. They have this genius with their body, whether they're martial artists or they're choreographers. And then also there's musical intelligence. There's interpersonal intelligence. People like yourself who are just really have this gift of connecting with other people, intrapersonal. And that's where interpersonal is self to others. Intrapersonal is self to self. These are individuals that have a deep connection with themselves. They have this self-awareness and they have this understanding. And so, there's so many different ways of expressing our genius. And
it's been interesting. This is first of all, I want to say hi to everybody out there. And if you haven't yet,
I'm speed reading all the comments.
Yeah, chime in.
We have multiple chats open. Yeah.
Chime in and let us know where you're coming from. And if you have a question, say hey to Lori. And then I see that Julie cracked a joke about teach JC to remember my name. But she asked a great question: does IQ play into it? What is IQ?
Yeah. So IQ is this antiquated way of measuring intelligence. And the idea when it was created was like you take this test and your potential when you're 8 is the same as it is when it's 88. And that's absolutely not true. We know we've learned more about the human brain in the past 20 years than the previous 2,000 years combined. And what we found is we're grossly underestimating our own capabilities. This phenomenon of neuroplasticity, which is your brain's ability to make new connections as you age through novelty and nutrition, it changes everything. So you could change the pathways of your thinking, your feeling, the way you understand things. And so I'm very excited about that. But going back to, the human brain, I mean, think about 86 billion brain cells, neurons, and each one has upwards of 10,000 synaptic connections. And if you would extrapolate that, that's more connections than there are in the known universe. So it's very exciting. But school teaches you what to learn, but they don't always show you how to learn. There was no class on focus or flow or concentration. Certainly not a class on speed reading or memory. I always thought it should have been the 4th R in school. Right? They teach reading, writing, arithmetic. Obviously, spelling is not one of them. But what about recall? What about retention?
Yeah.
Socrates said, learning is remembering. And there's a quote in Limitless that's highlighted a lot that says, life is the letter C between the letters B and D. Life is C between B and D. What does that mean? I would write it down, please. B stands for birth. D stands for death. Life, C, choice. that your life is a reflection of all the choices you've made up to this point. Where are you going to live? What are you going to focus on? What are you going to feed your mind? What are you going to eat? You know, who are you going to spend time with? All these decisions. And I believe these difficult times, they could distract you. These difficult times, they could diminish you, or these difficult times, they could develop you. We always decide. And I think one of the most important things to decide is that you are a thermostat. You're not a thermometer. What does that mean? Like, think about the functionality of a thermometer. If there's a thermometer on your wall, what is its function? What's its job? What does it do?
Lets you know what the temperature is.
Yeah, it just reacts to the temperature of the room. And, you know, and sometimes as human beings, we react, right? We react to how people treat us. We react to politics. We react to the weather, right? You know, we have a young son, and I caught myself the other day because it was kind of foggy and drizzly outside. And I was like, oh, it's a bad day out today. And I realized the subtext of what I was saying to my son is your happiness is based on the weather, right? When a thermostat is different, it doesn't react to the environment, right? It gauges, it knows what's going on. So you can know what's going on in politics, you can know what's going on in the world, but what does a thermostat do that's different than a thermometer? It sets a temperature, right? And then what happens, the environment it reacts to you. And I think that's one of the goals of leadership, you know, knowing that, reminding yourself that you have more power and then you realize that you have, because that temperature on that thermostat, that could be your goal, that could be your vision, that could be, you know, your KPIs, it could be, you know, some kind of aspiring, you know, a reality, and taking the invisible and making it visible. That maybe it's like Wayne Dyer said, it's not that you'll believe it when you see it. Maybe it's the opposite. You'll see it when you start believing it also. And so, yeah, I love to spend the rest of the time really going into tactics.
Yeah, we're gonna get into some fun games that we're gonna be able to play that anybody can do. So, just once again, I want to say hi to everybody. I see Amanda Yao here and Julie. I know that Monica is here as well. What's up, Monica? And just understand that at all times while we're going, and that's kind of like my role here as the sidekick, I'll be watching the chat, and you can ask questions, and just know that it would be a really, really good idea. You know, whenever I've introduced Jim to an audience, and this will live on, because through two different channels, which are really who we have to thank for kind of sponsoring and creating this event. And that would be my passion project, and that's the Make Sense Academy. And that's a private community where, you know, it's kind of like the uprising of the sleepwalking masses. And this would be very, very up their alley. As a matter of fact, we make Jim Kwik material. This video will live there. Part of the protocol, you know, why would we spend time teaching people how to change the way they look at things so that the things they look at change, and also teach people how to set goals and get goals if they don't know how to learn, right? It would be me lying to people. So we're so passionate about the work that Jim does that we make it almost a prerequisite. And that's where this video will lie. But then also I want to give a shout out, and that's this hat that I'm wearing here. You see it says "We Are One," and that is the folks at Creative Con, and that's CRE8 TivCon, and that is an annual event.
That's very creative.
Very creative. I thought you would like that. And by the way, the 8, if you turn it sideways, is what?
Infinity.
There you go.
Limitless.
So anyway, that's an event that takes place in Chicago in 2025, and you definitely want to check that out. But I want to say hi to everybody, and I want you to really kind of come out and start interacting with us, but wait till the end, because we're going to be able to offer you something that you can't get anywhere else. When people watch Jim and they learn, I know you guys are already doing this. You're on Google and you're like looking for like the best deal to get Jim Kwik's courses. Well, I can tell you they're everywhere. I mean, like Jim's courses are available everywhere, but specifically, you know, through Kwik Learning and all of that. But we're going to offer you something that is very, very unique.
We should give it to him now, and then we could get into
we'll let him see what it looks like now.
If people go, so we, JC asked me if we could do something very special for the communities, and your success is our success.
Yeah.
And you know, I will go and deliver as many tips as possible that are practical and pragmatic and proven. But there's a difference between tips and training.
Yeah.
And so we have the largest online academy in the world for accelerated learning. And, you know, we have students in every country in the world, and we would invite you to join us. It's just at Jim Kwik. You have to spell it right. Kwik really is my last name, Kwik. It's my father's name, my grandfather's name, jimkwik.com/dragon. And you'll get an exclusive special reduced discounted rate as a thank you for just being part of the community. That's our way of just being supportive of you. And you know, my history with JC,
I guilted him into it.
Yeah.
But one thing I want you to know is when Jim created that for the community, and so many people have already taken advantage of it, like my close friends, I looked up just to see. I mean, he's my friend, so I'm like, what kind of a deal is he giving us?
It's a deal.
So I looked up, and of course I Googled as well, and I'm like, wow, you know, so, you know, that's the difference between this being another jacuzzi experience and being pivotal.
I think the reason why, whether it's the courses or, you know, and it's not mandatory at all, or this session, the most important skill to master in the 21st century, whether it's for your health, even your happiness, your certainly the treasures of your life financially, is your ability to learn rapidly. Your ability to learn rapidly and translate that learning into action is the ultimate competitive advantage. You know, if you've seen photos of me online with Oprah or Elon Gates, whoever, people always ask how we connected. We connected over books, right? You read to succeed. If somebody has decades of experience, like yourself, like JC does, and he puts it into a book, and you could sit down in a few days and read that book, you could download decades into days, decades of insight, wisdom,
very Matrix-like.
Yeah, it's the fastest way to upgrade your brain, right? Your brain, we upgrade all our technology. You get a new phone when it comes out, you update your apps, you know, television, computer, whatever. But when's the last time we upgraded the most important technology that has created all technology, which is your brain? And so
let me say something just in the experience, because I don't know about you guys, but I hated reading. Like, I think I read like Catcher in the Rye, and that was it, you know? And we're in a world right now where you can like watch like 5-minute videos and think that you've encompassed everything. So I was the guy that would read so that I could fall asleep, because I wouldn't even get through one page. So when I, you know, got to take Jim's course, I was very frustrated with what I thought I could accomplish. And by the way, my daughter has done this too. She's 14 years old. And we not only mow through books and retain them on a new level, you know, we're constantly upgrading our brains. And Jim goes much further, and he teaches you about brain foods and all this stuff. You're going to get access to all of that. But I'm almost addicted to it. This is what's interesting about learning, is once you learn how awesome it could be, I almost get like anxiety if someone takes it away from me.
You know, how many people here, you know, you make steps to learn, you buy books and they sit on your shelf unread, and it becomes shelf help, not self-help. You know, what we teach people is not just how to read faster, it's also how to read smarter, how to understand, even if you're not reading it faster, how to understand what you read, how to retain what you read. I think two of the most costly words in life are I forgot. I mean, think about the consequences of saying, I forgot to do it. I forgot to go to that meeting or appointment. I forgot that conversation. I forgot what I was going to say. I forgot that person's name. I forgot what I just read. Every single time you have those thoughts, you lose time, you make errors, you could hurt a relationship. And then on the other side, when you could easily remember client information, product information, I mean, how many of you would love to give a speech without notes, right? Public speaking, that was my biggest fear. Was my two biggest challenges, JC, growing up, were learning and public speaking, because I never knew
we
the
built
answer.
Our whole friendship on that.
Yeah, that's funny. We hosted a bunch of events together early on and viewings, and you know, it's one of those things. And the universe has a sense of humor, because what do I do all day? I public speak on this thing called learning. But that's interesting how our struggles can become strengths. That with challenge comes change. And so
check this out. This is a wonderful, wonderful human that I've had the pleasure of meeting, Monica. But Monica's saying that she recently had a brain injury. So she's super excited to see what she could accomplish. when somebody gains the identity like you did at 5, but it's another when you're an adult,
Yeah.
and you just kind of like submit to this idea that you're at a disadvantage. What do you have to say to somebody like that? What's possible?
I would say that, as I mentioned, your brain is this incredible supercomputer, and your self-talk is a program that will run. So you tell yourself, I'm not good at whatever, remembering names. You won't remember the name of the next person you meet. And I say it, even review it, just to be able to, part of our memory improves by repetition, right? But also it puts the onus on us. I just want to remind everybody that so many people out of fear are shrinking their goals or dreams to fit their minds, when what if we expanded our minds to fit all that's possible? And the reason why I say your ability to learn rapidly, to learn, to unlearn, to relearn things, is because today, the faster you learn, the faster you earn. Knowledge today is not only power, knowledge is profit. Because when you have more knowledge and wisdom, you can make better choices or decisions. But that means you retain that information. So
People are skipping that. They're skipping that. They're going straight for the earn and wondering why it's not working.
Yeah, I think there's a sequence of success where you be, do, have, share, right? Be, do, have, share. And if you try to shortcut it, a lot of people play the lottery to get to the have part. And let's say someone wins the lottery and has tens of millions of dollars, or I know people watching this internationally, whatever your currency, but they jump there. But what happens over time to the lottery winners? They lose all the money and more, right? Because they jumped from the be, do, have, share. They jumped to the have, but they were never being a millionaire. So they were never doing those financially wise things that they should do to save, to invest, to grow. And they lost it. So you have to be, do, have, and then share, because you learn to earn, to return. For anyone who purchased Limitless over the past few years, I want to thank you. We donated 100% of the proceeds to charity. In this time, we've built schools for children in need who have no access to education in Ghana, Guatemala, Kenya. We've also supported research for Alzheimer's for women. Women are twice as likely to experience Alzheimer's than men.
Wow.
Yet most of the research is done on men and treatments on men. When I was 7, going through all my biggest challenges, my superhero was my grandmother. Because my parents, when they immigrated here, and my parents well, like, they're very hardworking. So they had many jobs. We live in the back of a laundromat that my mother worked at. So the person who took care of me was my grandmother. But when I had my accident, she started showing early signs of dementia. She would call me by my father's name. She would repeat something she just said a minute ago. And any of you who have a family member or someone close to you that has brain aging challenges, it's hard to see, emotionally very difficult, because your memory is kind of the tapestry of who you are. Somebody loses their memory, they're not the same person. But yeah.
One quick question, because Alzheimer's is a big concern. And then we're going to get into the stuff. If somebody's worried about Alzheimer's and they hear this, what's the number one thing you would tell them to do right now?
Yeah. So everyone,
or maybe I'll give you 3.
Yeah. Everyone wants a magic pill. There's no magic limitless pill, but there's a process. And, while Limitless is endorsed by the #1 Alzheimer's researcher in the world, Dr. Rudy Tanzi out of Harvard, also by the Cleveland Clinic Center for Brain Health, the director there. And when I speak at these institutions, we know that about 1/3 of your brain is predetermined by genetics and biology, but 2/3 is in your control. Now, if you've done research and looked into, just other areas of this, then some people say 100%. Right, in terms of how the genes express themselves. The analogy I've heard recently is like, for Alzheimer's, your genetics loads the gun, but it's your lifestyle that will fire it off. And so, regardless, we have a lot of influence. And so I would say, if there's one thing, take your meds. And I don't mean pharmaceutical, just it's an acronym. So let's get into it. Meditation. And I know you have a meditative practice for years. And for me, it's not even a must. It's not a should have, it's a must have. I feel like I'm at a disadvantage. How many of you meditate or have some kind of process? A number of you. Like, it's one of those things where just 10, 20 minutes time where you disconnect so you can reconnect. And somebody the other day told me, I don't have 10 minutes to meditate. If you're so stressed and busy that you don't have 10 minutes, you should probably meditate for an hour.
Yeah, you need it more.
Yeah, there's so much research, everything from stress management. Chronic stress has been shown to shrink the human brain. But most of us are living in fight or flight, that sympathetic kind of, space, and just taking time to relax and get into, when you're in fight or flight, you're in your survival brain, and it kind of holds you hostage to your executive functioning, to your creativity, to your ability to solve problems, make good decisions. So meditation is the M. The E in meds stands for exercise. And so notice this is all free, right? Meditation, exercise. And I don't just mean doing CrossFit or Pilates a few times a week. I mean moving throughout the day. One of the most important things somebody could do if they're concerned with brain aging challenges is to move your body. I always tell people, as your body moves, your brain grooves. As your body moves, your brain grooves. When you exercise, you create something called, you create dopamine, you create serotonin, you create endorphins. We are this neurochemical soup that improves your mood and your cognitive health and performance. And also when you exercise, you create something called BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factors. And what is it? It's fertilizer for neuroplasticity. And so movement's so important, yet most of us spend time on screens all day, and they say sitting is the new smoking. I just want to encourage people a few times a day, take a brain break. And what are you doing that brain break? You're hydrating, as I've done like 6 times during this session, because your brain is mostly water. And just being dehydrated could, even 2%, could affect your cognitive performance. Staying hydrated has been shown to improve your reaction time, your thinking speed, upwards of 30%. So during my brain break, I will hydrate and do some breathing, clean out those mental cobwebs. Your brain, again, is only 2% of your body mass, but it requires 20% of the nutrients and oxygen. And a lot of times people complain about being tired or having mental fatigue, and they think they need calories, but really they need oxygen. And most people, when they're like even reading, you're talking about speed reading, like if you're slumped when you're reading that book, you're going to get tired because the lower 1/3 of your lungs absorbs 2/3 of the oxygen. And so just maintaining your posture is so very important. So during my brain break, even if it's 5 minutes, I will hydrate. I will do a series of like maybe 30 breaths, and then I will move, maybe doing some jumping jacks, calisthenics, take the dog out for a few minutes. So very important. They've shown also that people, when they listen to your podcast or just any audiobook or whatever, and they're doing something rhythmic, like they're on a treadmill, going for a brisk walk, you'll actually understand the information better, and you'll retain it better also as well. So very, very important. So that's the E, is exercise. And then the D in meds RX, the D stands for diet. I just want to remind people what you eat matters, especially for your gray matter. And we talked about, how there's a whole area of science we talk about in Limitless called neuronutrition, that your brain is only 2% of your body mass, but it requires, again, 20% nutrients. And some of those nutrients are different than the rest of your body. And so what you eat matters. Some of my favorite brain foods, well, you know them, avocados, blueberries, broccoli, olive oil. If your diet allows eggs, the choline in eggs leads to acetylcholine, which is very important for cognitive health. Green leafy vegetables, some kind of omega-3s, whether you get through salmon, sardines, flax, very important for your brain. Turmeric, the active ingredient, curcumin, is anti-inflammatory, so it's a brain food. And then walnuts, high in vitamin E, very neuroprotective. And probably everyone's favorite, dark chocolate. Dark chocolate, not milk chocolate. But those are, and on the other side, highly processed food, fried foods with all the chemicals, you don't even know what those things are. High sugar, right? Those glucose spikes could wreak havoc on your nervous system. And so,
So you've mentioned, I have to do this because he's a friend of both of ours. And I almost every day that I come over, Jim is out. He has this amazing gym outside, but we have to give a shout out to Flo.
Yeah.
This is a guy that practices what he preaches, but he's got this amazing trainer named Flo. And
yeah, no, I
great.
appreciate it. It's just everybody has it takes a village, right? So I'm a coach, but I also have coaches. And in the beginning, when I couldn't afford a coach or a trainer, books would be my coach. They'd be my mentors of my mind. So diet, very important. And finally, the S in meds, obviously everyone could guess it's sleep.
Yeah.
And I'll say two things for your brain when you sleep, because what we're talking about here to improve your memory, and I'll go into the process, but the process is like the software, how to remember names, how to learn a language, how to remember. I train a lot of actors or TED speakers to memorize their lines. That's the software, but the hardware is your brain itself. So what we're talking about with meds are things you could do every day just to take care of the hardware, the brain. So the S is sleep. And for your brain, how do you perform mentally when you get a bad night's sleep? How's your ability to think, solve problems? How's your brain energy? How's your ability to focus, remember things? So when you sleep, you consolidate short to long-term memory. And I'm giving you the why to give you a little bit of extra incentive to prioritize your sleep. So if you have long-term memory issues, check your sleep. You could do an overnight sleep study. Any general physician could send a prescription, send you a unit at home. You no longer have to go to a sterile sleep center, which I've done many times. When you sleep also, the sewage system in your brain kicks in, and you clean out that beta amyloid plaque that can lead to brain aging challenges. Again, this session is not meant to treat or diagnose any health condition, right? When we're talking about Alzheimer's or TBIs, it's just my personal experience that, I read a lot. I spend a lot of time with clients dealing with these issues. This is my 33rd year of teaching. Time flies. And then so the sleep also, besides the cleaning out of your brain and also the consolidating short and long-term memory, it's also where you dream. And just what I want to say on that in 15 seconds, so many things in the world were created in dream states, and that's in our culture. Mary Shelley created Frankenstein in her dream. Paul McCartney created the song Yesterday in his dream. A chemist created the periodic table in his dream. Elias Howe created the sewing machine in his dream. So what are you dreaming about? I talk to people in this program that many of you will join. Again, at jimkwik.com/dragon, we teach you how to remember your dreams, because there's gold to be mined in your dreams. But most people have a dream, but they forget it. How many of you have challenges in this area? You can't remember what you dreamt about. My favorite sleep hacks, and I could write a whole book on this. And please, in the comments, let us know how your sleep is and your best sleep tip. Number one, get direct sunlight first thing in the morning. So every morning, my son and I go outside and watch the sun come up. And just not, even if it's hazy or foggy, you'll still get the benefit, because your eyes are the only part of your brain that's outside of your skull. And what this does, it resets your circadian rhythm to help you sleep better that night. Not sunlight through your window, because the glass can filter out a certain spectrum of light. I'll go outside if you can, 5 or 10 minutes. Second thing, if you're sensitive to coffee like I am, like caffeine specifically, it gets in your system 10 plus hours. So I kind of lay off the tea at 12 o'clock. And then probably 3 biggest ones, you have an alarm to wake up. Highly recommend you use that alarm to go to sleep. So your brain, as you know, your nervous system loves a schedule, even on the weekends. No one gets this perfect. I certainly don't. But to the degree you could go to sleep at the same time and wake up at the same time, will improve your overall sleep long term. And then the last 2 things for sleep. Thousands of years ago, you would know instinctively it was time to sleep, because the environment would tell you, right? There would be a decrease in 2 environmental factors. What are they? Temperature and light, right? It gets cooler and it gets darker. So as best you can in your residence, in your home, darker and cooler. Now where it's so cold, you're shivering, because that's going to keep you up. But maybe you could take a warm bath. And if you use Epsom salt, you'll absorb the magnesium, which helps you to be able to relax. Take a warm shower, do a sauna. But when you step out of the shower, your core body temperature drops, and that's a signal for you to create melatonin, which is the hormone to help you relax. And also, you create melatonin when it's dark at night. And you know what the culprit is? Our devices, right? I have a video with Simon Sinek, 10 years. I just saw the like 10 years on Facebook. And it was just me saying, don't touch your phone the first 30 minutes a day or the last 30 minutes a day, because it will disrupt your focus, your sleep, your memory, and make you more reactive and distracted. So those are the kind of challenges. So your devices, maybe put the setting on night mode, maybe overall don't use it, because the context of what you're still, you would never invite 500 strangers to come into your bedroom at night, right? But that's what we're doing, kind of like when we open up our phone. So darker and cooler, the better. So those are your meds. If you want to improve it, RX, meds RX, R is relationships. And who you spend time with, it matters. Where they say we're the average of 5 people we spend time with, because we have these things in our system called mirror neurons. Like when you look in your reflection, we imitate the people around us. And so that's probably the biggest needle mover. They've done, we had on our podcast, the director of the largest study at Harvard for happiness and longevity. And he was saying, yes, diet's important. Yes, exercise is important. But for a long life and a happier life, it's your social. It's like not social media, but it's not just your neurological networks, it's your social networks and having those deep relationships. It doesn't have to be a married, doesn't have to be a spouse. It's just deep relationships, because we mirror the people around us also. And here's another acronym, WATCH, WATCH. Your words, we copy other people's words and language. A is actions, we behave like other people. The T is thoughts, we think like people we spend the most time with. And then the C is character. We tend to have the same moral compass as the people we spend the most time with. And the H, habits, right? Like whether you smoke has less to do with your biology and more, do your friends smoke?
Oh, yeah.
Or do your friends work out? Do they read? Do they meditate? You're more likely. Do they eat healthy? You're more likely to do those things. Remember, first you create your habits, then your habits create you. So meds are X, and the X is just the extras. The extras, cold plunging, right? Pulse electromagnetic field therapy. If you struggle with trauma, looking into something like EFT or EMDR, right? These are the extras. Nootropics. Like we have a list of, in the book, we list dozens of the science-backed substances that it will improve your focus, memory, mood, mental energy. We put that at brainnutrition.com. If you don't buy the book, you can get the list, and I linked all the studies. But that would be the extras. But I would always do the first few before the extras, right? So focus on meditation, exercise, diet, sleep, and the R, relationships.
This gives everybody a different perspective on your 2025 goals. Typically we're very narrow-minded about like it's weight loss or make more money or something like that. But it's be, do, have, right? Who you are determines how well what you do works. So I'm just going to encourage everybody to take this wake-up call, maybe not add everything, but add those things in there so that you can also take the step of becoming the person that will actually succeed. So let's go over some mechanics, those things that are ready for.
Let's go. So we talked about the hardware, the sleep, the diet, the meditation, everything is good for your brain. There's 3 keys to a better memory. And I want you to remember MOM, M-O-M. And I'm using a lot of acronyms as shorthand, just because, again, these are tips, not the training that most of you will join. M-O-M. So let's play a mental experiment. Let's say JC has a suitcase for you, has $1 million cash, or whatever the equivalent is in your where you live. If you just remember the name of the next stranger you meet, who's going to remember that person's name for $1 million? Everybody, right?
Everybody.
So as your coach, at least in this time, your brain coach, I want to remind you, I'm going to call you on your BS, your belief systems. It's not true you can't remember names. You're going to remember a name for $1 million. So it had nothing to do with your capability. It has everything to do with the first M in MOM, which is your motivation. And what is your motive for taking action? So a simple thing you could do to remember names, ask yourself, and I did this for a few weeks and now I just do it automatic. Ask yourself, why do I want to remember the person's name? Because remember the formula: head, heart, hands. If you don't have a why, heart, some kind of emotion, you're not going to remember it, because you don't remember all names, but I promise you, you don't forget all names. And genius leaves clues, even for yourself. When you are doing something, there's a method behind what looks like magic. And I would suppose the names you remember are people you're attracted to, people that could be good for your business, right? There's some kind of why. So reasons reap results. As Simon Sinek, I mentioned him earlier, he wrote a great book called Start With Why. So ask yourself, why do I remember this person's name? Maybe to show the person respect. Maybe it's to practice these things I learned from JC and Jim. That makes a good podcast. JJ. Maybe it's to show the person respect, get a referral. Again, just coming up with a reason will help you. The O in mom, and let's do this. I want everybody to shake out your hand, do this. Everybody, I know you're watching this virtually. You might be with other people. Make sure they're doing it also. All right, just do this. Make a fist and put it to your chin. Where's your chin, right? This is your cheek. This is your chin.
I still go along with it.
Yeah, no, I know. I've done that for like 30 years. But my point in doing it, and I don't know if I caught you on that, is the O in mom is observation, paying attention. And the art of memory is the art of attention. And we live in the attention age where with technology, we're always driven to distraction. But your focus, your attention is a muscle. It's use it or lose it. One of the reasons I don't like people touching their phone the first 30 minutes a day is not only does it make you reactive, right? You get one voicemail message, email, text message, it puts you, hijacks your mood. But the other reason, it doesn't just wire you for reaction, it wires you for distraction. Every like, share, comment, cat video, every app notification, social media alert. First thing in the morning, your brain is very susceptible, right? You're in the most relaxed state you will be in the entire day. And so, if you're flexing your distraction muscles first thing, how you do anything is how you do everything. You wonder why you can't focus with the kids or focus when you're in a meeting. Your mind just wanders. And that's why you meditate. It's not that you stop thinking. It's that when you think about something that takes you out of the present, the bills, work, dry cleaning, and you pull it back using a mantra, or you pull it back using your breath, you practice building your focus muscles, right? And then when you're distracted later in the day, because life happens, you have flexed this strength and you could bring it back to the present. And so very, very important, I think, and, important aspect to all of this. So the O is observation. Just listen. In fact, as you're taking notes, write the word listen down. And here's some brain exercise. Scramble the letters in the word listen, and it spells another word perfectly. It spells the word silent. And so you have this incredible genius, of a brain. You can remember a name. It's one word, maybe two words. But we were just never taught. There was no class, teaching people how to improve their memory. And that's why we created this special course. We're inviting you to join us, because it's the most comprehensive 30-day program in 15 minutes a day to triple your memory. Whether you want to learn a language in a third of the time, remember things 3 times better.
Let me say something about that, because I have the luxury of like having access to this guy for so long. But when you hear him say something like that, like triple your memory or triple your speed reading and stuff like that, I want you to understand something he doesn't say, but I can say this as a course taker. It doesn't take 30 days for you to realize how much better it's getting. Like even the first day you memorize, the first day you learn something, it unlocks this. I almost get the chills thinking
you learn, because I think one of the best ways of changing belief systems, negative beliefs, is getting yourself to do something you never thought you could do. So in the first day,
you see it.
I show you how to memorize 20 random words. We start with words and we go into like speeches and languages and everything. And it's fun. And it works for everyone, regardless of your age, your background, your career, your diet, your education level, your financial situation, gender, history, IQ. It's just, we need the training. And then that's it. So going back, 3 keys for better memory. You need the motivation. So ask yourself why. In the case of remembering names, why do I want to remember this person's name? The O, observation. Just listen. Just pay attention. And that's what all people want is your presence, right? That's the ultimate gift. That's why it's called presence. So the idea here is just listen for it. And then the M are the methods. And I'll give everybody one for remembering names because it came up on the chat. Suave, just very, very simple. S, it's an acronym again, so you remember a lot. You say it. The U is use it. The A is you ask about it. How do you spell it? Who are you named after? What does it mean? Where is it from? It works really well for unusual names you don't hear all the time. The V is visualize. Just visualize like the person's name on their forehead, like you're drawing a marker. Or if the person's name is Mark, imagine just putting a check mark on their forehead. Right? Kind of silly. You don't share this with Mark, but it overcomes what I call the 6-second syndrome. People tell you something like their name. You have 6 seconds at max to do something with it. Otherwise, the name just disappears. So the visual person's name is Mike. Imagine they're singing karaoke on this microphone. All right. Someone's name's Carol. You can imagine them singing Christmas carols. Person's name is Mary. Imagine she's holding 2 lambs, like Mary had a little lamb. And once you know that person's name, the pictures disappear. It's just a way of observing, right? So the V is visualize. And then the E in suave, end. Leave saying goodbye, end the conversation saying their name. Because how remarkable is that? Because I know you've done it, JC. You walk into a room, let's say 5, 10, 20 strangers, and you leave saying goodbye to every single one using their name. Who are they all going to remember? They're all going to remember you, right?
That's something that back in the day when I didn't really know, I just thought he was like some sort of a genius. We're all geniuses. I just thought Jim had this ability to hear something and recall it. But it wasn't until I started taking the course that I started paying attention to what he was doing to do that. And then all of a sudden, I mean, I still think he's a genius, but it started to make sense.
I love it. So those are the methods. So we've talked, a lot. We talked about like meds RX, we talked about MOM, and we talked about Suave. These are simple things you can do to make your life easier. That's really my goal, is to build better, brighter brains. And again, regardless of your age, your background, the stage you are in life, this is something that everybody can improve. Just like if someone wants to lose weight or get healthy, there's a certain protocol that's universal. And everyone's a little bio-individual. So we tailor, a lot of our training based on your brain type. But yeah. And I love how you're supporting everyone, each other in the chat, asking questions and people. Yeah, that was ask. Yeah, ask about their name. And so, yeah, the memory is a force multiplier. When you improve your memory, every area of your life gets better. And it's just, everybody wants to keep their brain sharp. It's something else. Like there was this study, it was on the cover of Time magazine. The book was written called Aging with Grace, where they had these nuns living 80, 90 and above. They wanted to find out what was the secret to longevity. They said half of it was their faith and, their gratitude, emotional fulfillment. But the other half, they were lifelong learners. They were debating, they were doing research, they were having these great conversations, reading and so on. And they say that's what they attribute to adding years to their life, but also life to their years. So again, if you want to look up the book, it's called Aging with Grace, but keeping your brain active. The 2 big dips we see in cognitive performance is usually when they graduate school, because people associate learning with their education and they think that their education's done, their learning is done. And the second time is when people retire, because often when people retire, they retire their minds, and then unfortunately their body isn't far behind.
Wow.
So it's always use it or lose it. Absolutely. And one of the best ways of training your brain, reading is to your mind what exercise is to your body. Or if you want to train it even deeper, we invite you to join. We have a bundle where you could do our 2 flagship programs is quick reading and quick recall. Quick reading in 15 minutes a day, you could triple your reading speed with better comprehension and better retention in 21 days. You'll improve the first day 50%. So my goal is for people to stack benefits right as soon as humanly possible. But what the team did, talking to your team, was we did a sale exclusively for this community, that the reading and memory you could get at a discounted rate, even less expensive than one of the programs. So we invite you to join that. And there's be some special bonuses that you'll just be surprised with. But
Yeah, one thing I want to say about that, because I know that sometimes people, and I understand why they would take the speed reading course, but fail to learn how to retain and recall, or skip the speed reading course and just say, oh, I just want to learn how to improve my memory and my recall, and then say, well, are you satisfied with what you already have only as something? So me personally, just as somebody that's done it, and my children have done it, if you can learn, I always say whatever it is that we consume with regularity ends up being what we assume with regularity. So choose your books wisely. By the way, one of the most difficult things in the entire world is to buy Jim a book, by the way, just as a side note. Oh, he's like, I already got that one. But if you take the speed reading and you learn how to consume more efficiently, right? Just think about how cool that is to be able to learn recall on that.
You know, I had,
It's just-
when I was decades ago, I get a call on a Friday evening from a number I didn't see. And back then you answered the phone. Nowadays you just don't, right? But I did. And I didn't know the person, but they were referred to me by a very, very close friend. So I had the conversation, and this person was frantic. He was like, Jim, we have a speaker that's supposed to come in tomorrow. It's our keynote speaker, and he's not able to make it. Can you fill in for him in New York City? And I was just like, well, I normally book my speeches 6 months, a year ahead of time. It's not how it works. But it came from a very close friend, right? And so I say, well, if I can make it work, what's the topic? And he tells me the topic. And I was like, why are you calling me? I don't know anything about that topic. There must be other experts that really could fill in better. He's like, yeah, I know, but he wrote a book. And I'm like, so? A lot of speakers write books. He's like, yeah, but you're a speed reader. And I put it 2 to 2 together, right? And so he's like, can you come a little bit early, read a book, and then give the keynote? And I said, okay, this is really going to cost you. So the speech was at like around noon. I show up at 10:15, 10:30. I read his book, and then I give a presentation on it. And humbly, you know, when they send surveys out to events, like in terms of what people liked or whatever, it was the highest rated talk of the conference. And it's not because I think I'm a great speaker. I've never taken a minute of public speaking training, but I do know how to teach in a way that's memorable. And I did understand the book. When you learn how to smart read something, we've had people be able to remember things better than the authors did, you know, and then in terms of their knowledge. And so, yeah, reading and memory just kind of go hand in hand. So I just love a good book, and it's a great exercise for your brain. But yeah, going back to this though, I give it, one of my first students, when I learned this information a few decades ago, I couldn't help but help other people. And I started to tutor, and one of my clients, she was a college freshman. She read 30 books in 30 days. How many of you would love to go to the bookstore or Amazon, get 30 books and not skim or scan, but really read it, right? I mean, how you get books on finance and health and whatever, productivity. You could get a PhD in any category as a book a week, right? I know you're reading like, what are you reading now? Like 50 books a year. That's a huge advantage.
And I'm reading complicated books too, like that I normally would back off of, and I'm finding myself my vocabulary's gotten better.
Yeah, this is amazing. Like there's so many benefits to reading, and nonfiction and fiction reading also, because fiction reading, there's so many brain benefits also. But back to this, I wanted to find out what, you know, this young lady, she read 30 books in 30 days, not skim or scanned. I wanted to find out not how. You'll learn exactly how in the program. In the 21 days. I want to know why. Like, why? What was her motivation? Going back to MOM, and I found out her mother was diagnosed with terminal cancer and was only given 2 months to live. Think about it, just 60 days. And the books she was reading were books that saved her mom's life. I wished her luck, prayers. I don't hear from her. 6 months later, I get a call from this young lady, and she's crying profusely. And I don't know how much time goes by, but when she stops, I find out they're tears of joy that her mother not only survived, but is really getting better. Doctors don't know how, they don't know why. They were calling it a miracle. But her mother attributes 100% to the great advice she got from her daughter, who got it from these books. And in that moment, I realized two things. If knowledge is power, learning is your superpower. And we could all be better learners. The second thing I realized was my dharma, my mission in life, to build better, brighter brains. Really no brain left behind, because I know what it's like to feel overloaded, to feel distracted, to feel forgetful, to feel like mentally drained. And there's simple things that I really wish was taught back in school, or part of an onboarding for work or university or what have you. But it's we have the responsibility. We have to do our part. And I feel like the information that we're learning is always going to change. The half-life, is updated, the amount of information. So our ability to learn something, unlearn it, relearn it is so very powerful. And it's a gift you give yourself. Because I feel like you give someone an idea in a session like this, you can enrich their life. But if you teach a person how to learn, they can enrich and empower their own lives.
Forever
and ever.
Well, this has been wonderful. And I just want everyone that's watching, if you are part of the Make Sense Academy, you've got a lot of fun treats coming to you already.
That's awesome.
We're not only.
I love the energy in the live chat. So many supportive. So
it's fun because there's so many good people out there that make this all so much fun. So there's going to be a recorded video that will not live long on YouTube. So there's that. You're also going to get the audio version, so you can listen to this conversation in your car and your iPod or something like that. Did I just say iPod?
What's an iPod?
What's an iPod? Is that like a CD-ROM? And then also the transcript. A lot of you have been, messaging me. What did he say? All that. So we'll provide all of that stuff. So if you're a ticket holder already for the Creative Con event, by the way, Julie, the organizer, said,
"Thank you, Julie."
Said, "Jim, you can come to Creative Con. We won't make you read anything." But anyway, ticket holders for Creative Con, you're going to get all those goodies as well as Make Sense Academy. But if you're somebody that wants to get access to those things and a couple of little fun treats, just put the word limitless in the chat, in the comments, DM me, and just let us know that you'd like to receive that stuff as well, or at least most of it. Or check out Creative Con or Make Sense Academy, which is hosted on the school platform. You can find out information about that, right? Make Sense or Create or something like that, and we'll make sure you get that. But Jim, this is a really crazy world we're living in right now. And one of the things that can very easily distract people is distractions. What would you say is, because we're coming to the end of the year, we've got holidays, we've got a whole host of things that people will use to justify and excuse themselves from doing the work. Do you have any suggestions on how people can close out this year, but position themselves, more importantly, to make 2025 the year they break the chains of insanity and actually go through with what they said they're going to do? Do you have any advice?
I love this. Great question. So I think there's a science to manifestation, taking the invisible and making it visible. And I love being around creators. I think the future belongs to the creators. Everything you see is created by something and somebody. So I would say this, there's a difference between goal setting and goal getting, for sure. That there is three things you could always control, which is your mindset, your motivation, and the method you're using to achieve anything. But somebody learns methods for making money or social media marketing, but they're not really, but their mindset is money is the root of all evil, or money doesn't grow on trees, or in order to make money, I have to hurt people. They're still going to be stuck in a box, right? And so I feel like what we're doing together is redrawing the borders and boundaries of possibility. And sometimes it's hard. Like, growth is hard, change can be scary, but nothing is as hard and scary as being stuck somewhere you don't belong. And so I would say in the new year, or even in today, setting your mind right is not just about time management, it's about mind management. So like let this as an example, since you don't touch your phone the first 30 minutes a day, and the easiest way of doing that is to put your phone in the bathroom or somewhere else, right? Where it's not the key for habit design, make the things that are good for you easier and make the things that are not so good for you more difficult, right? But the challenge here is, is getting our focus right. So instead of grabbing your phone, being distracted and reactive, what I recommend you do is you don't have to wait for New Year's. You could just, when you wake up, stay in bed. And I challenge you tomorrow to do this exercise. I promise you it would change your life. Ask yourself, imagine yourself coming back to bed that evening and that whole day happened. And let's say somebody, a family member asks you how your day was. And I want you to imagine you say, today was an incredible day. Wow, crushed it today, whatever. Then ask yourself what had to happen in order for you to feel that way, to say those words. And I want you to come up with 3 things personally and 3 things professionally. Because how big is your to-do list, really? 100, 200 plus different things. We're never going to be able to get all those things done. I really think people should have a not to-do list, but that's a different story. But I feel what should be on your to-do list is you're not going to get everything done, but you can focus on 6 things, 3 things personally, 3 things professionally. And that's your target to thrive that day. If you want to win the day, you have to win the first hour of the day. And if you just spend 2 minutes visualizing yourself having a happy day and then asking yourself, reverse engineering, what 3 things personally, 3 things professionally. And you can do this for your life, right? A lot of people have vision boards and they have a target for their goals. I would highly recommend a gratitude board though, for when you do, for the things you're grateful for. Like if you want to feel truly wealthy, like count all the things you have in your life that money can't buy. Or another thought experiment, you want to feel truly wealthy. What if the only things you had in your life tomorrow were the things you expressed gratitude for today? Right? Express it, not just think about it, but really expressed it. And so, and it's one of the sciences of just realizing you're not separate from the things that you want, right? Because you don't want to be desperate or coming from a place of lack. But the idea, what we're talking about is training your mind to think about the 3 things you want, business, work-wise and personally, and focus on that. And I get so much done that way. Yeah.
Thank you so much, my brother.
Yeah, I hope to see many of you in a live event, or also, if you're able to join our this bundle.
Is this huge event that you have sold out?
We have an event March 6th, 7th, and 8th called Limitless Live. I'll have
This is a big one.
25 speakers, be 6,000 people, 100 exhibitors there in Los Angeles. We opened it up to our students. We have over 2,000 people already signed up for it, but we'll launch that. So if you follow us on social media,
we'll put that in the follow-up as well.
Yeah, the website will be limitlesslive.com. I think the site's coming up in a couple of weeks, but we have Dr. Wendy Suzuki, who's a top brain doctor. We have, I won't give you Dr. Gabriel Lyons, like the experts and the masters. So it'll be fun. But yeah, it's jimkwik.com/dragon. There are all the details. And I would just say in final words that life is hard for one of 2 reasons. Either we're leaving our comfort zone, right? We're learning something new. We're facing some of our fears. Life is difficult. Or life is difficult because you stay in your comfort zone. And that could be even more difficult because the comfort zone might be a nice place to visit, but nothing grows there. So I appreciate all of you, willing to make it this far, and you realize that, you're CEO of your own, brand, right? And if you want to raise, you feed your business, your brain until it feeds you back. And yeah, I just feel like there's a version of yourself that's patiently waiting. And the goal is we show up every single day for ourselves and others until we're introduced.
Give yourself a raise in 2025 by learning how to learn, leveling up your brain. What you've been taught, your whole life is not necessarily true. It's just what you've been taught, right? You're going to start teaching yourself how to learn, and the skies are limitless when you have that. So thank you so much for having
Thank
me
you,
over.
everybody.
We're going to go shoot the you know what now for a little bit and play with his little toddler, which, by the way, during this whole thing, I just to give you guys that are Jim Kwik fans, you know, he's got this beautiful studio here, but what you can't see that I can see is he's got these beautiful videos and pictures of him playing with his little boy here at the same time. That's why I kept smiling.
Oh, I love
So
it.
thanks so much, Jim. Thanks, everybody. Remember, if you are not a Make Sense Academy member or a ticket holder at Creative Con, you just put in the comments or DM me at Dr. JC Dornick on Instagram or any channel like that, the word limitless, and we'll reach out to you. And that is the video, the transcript, the audio file, and a couple of other little goodies. So
Amazing.
Thanks so much. Have an amazing day and finish strong. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving and all of that stuff. Remember, Thanksgiving is not just a time to eat. It's a time to give thanks, right? So have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time. I go like this. Bye-bye now.